this broadcast. We are now shifting focus to the other big story that we're tracking here, and that's the economic crisis that our neighbor Pakistan faces. Amid worsening economic crisis in Pakistan, an IMF team has now reached the country. Talks between Pakistan and the International Monetary Fund have begun in Islamabad to strike a staff-level agreement on the 9th review under the $7 billion extended fund facility. The IMF team will be in Islamabad until the 9th of February. The IMF's $1.1 billion aid, part of the $6 billion bailout package that was announced last year, will be extremely crucial for Pakistan to avoid a complete economic collapse. A Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif, said that he's confident that the government will reach an agreement with the IMF this month, which would help out Pakistan get out of these difficulties. He also said that he hopes that the IMF loan revival would help unlock inflows from friendly countries and multilateral lenders. Remember, this also comes at a time when the Prime Minister of Pakistan has gone on record to say that I am extremely ashamed to go around our allies with a begging bowl asking for funds. So the IMF bailout really is the only way out for Pakistan out of this crisis, out of a hole that they have dug themselves, many would say. But that bailout by the IMF is easier said than done. The International Monetary Fund is in no mood to let Pakistan have it easy. There are certain preconditions that have been set. If complied with, and only if complied with fully, will Pakistan get that much needed relief. Now, there are several proposals that have been made by the IMF, but the biggest one is for Pakistan to cut its military spending. According to a source in the Pakistani Finance Ministry, the establishment is worried about IMF's rigid and tough conditions. There are these demands that have been laid out by the IMF on the table. The source within the Finance Ministry in Pakistan has also revealed that the IMF delegation has been repeatedly asking for an audit of the country's defense bills. Here are some of the preconditions that have been set by the IMF. Demand one is that Pakistan make cuts in its defense budget. They're also going on to say that these defense pensions are part of the budget. They should be shown as part of the budget, something that the Pakistani establishment has not been doing so far. They also then go on to say that pensions of defense personnel, which amount to about 400 billion or so Pakistani rupees, so far have been shown as civil expenditure. That should also be included in the military budget. Only then will they be able to look at the military budget as a whole and then see where cuts can be made and how that can be counterbalanced with the budget for the rest of the country. The IMF has also flagged the fact that 26% of the national budget in Pakistan is spent on defense, and that is something that the country cannot afford. They also want an assessment of expenditure of defense in the last few years. Now, it is a Catch-22 situation for Pakistan, and I say that because just yesterday we had a terror attack that have claimed over 90 lives at last count in Pakistan. At such a time, can Pakistan actually comply with the IMF setting terms about the budget that is spent on military or on defense? And can Nawaz Sharif prevent a complete collapse? That's the question we ask here. And joining me on broadcast is security analyst Patigrit Payne. Joining us on this broadcast, Dr. Tara Karta, former director of National Security Council Secretariat, also with me. We'll also have a senior Pakistani journalist with us on this broadcast, Hamid Khan. But Dr. Tara Karta, getting you in first as far as what exactly seems to be ailing Pakistan as far as the economy is concerned. And there are multiple reasons for it. Many would suggest it's they've dug themselves too deep in a hole that they created, and now only the IMF can actually pull them out of this particular hole. But the IMF is not going to let them have it easy. You know, the IMF has put certain preconditions, which in the past it hasn't done with many other countries.
No, this time, see, in the end, IMF is an international finance lending entity. It is not a charitable organization. So obviously, it wants to make sure that its money goes into the right places and not into deep pockets, which is what Pakistanis themselves are worried about. You know, when it comes to the aid that they're asking for floods, they're asking 10 billion committed. They're saying how much will actually come to the ground. But in terms of it, I think since 2017 or onwards, this is a question of short-term debt, which short, instead of a project loan, they've been taking program loans, which is short, expensive. So one loan pays another, one loan pays another, and sooner or later, that little pyramid which you've created is going to come down, and that's what's happened. On top of that, well, you've got the kind of debt that they have to China, which is far more than what they owe the IMF. So they're already in default to China. That's something which we need to think of. And China has not rolled over its debt. Already in default to China, already in default to Saudi Arabia. How is that going to work out? We don't know, because even if the IMF budget comes in at 1.5 billion, they're not going to allow that to be used to pay off the Chinese debt. So we'll have to see how this is going to work out. It's going to be very, very painful for Pakistan.
Absolutely, and it's also going to be painful, Pathikrit pain, because like I mentioned, it also comes on the back or just a day after a deadly terror attack claimed over 90 lives in Pakistan. At such a time when the IMF goes and tells the Pakistani establishment that, look, we'll only give you a bailout if you cut your military spending, that is something that the Pakistani establishment, both civil and military, is bound to fight the IMF on.
Look, first of all, Pakistan was never a viable economy. It has always survived on bailouts from IMF, doleouts from the Middle Eastern countries, and funding from America to fight so-called war on terror, which in itself was hypocritical. All that, and the Pakistanis kept on spending the money on the presumption that money would always keep on flowing like this. What has happened in the last few years is that that money has dried out. Secondly, remittances are now no more coming directly to the Central Bank of Pakistan. Today, as things stand, the IMF conditions, I think they are very justified. The problem for the Pakistani establishment is this. The nature of power structure is known to all. If Shahbaz Sharif tries to cut down Rawalpindi, then Shahbaz Sharif will himself be cut down into unlimited number of pieces by Rawalpindi. This is the reality. He survives on the blessings of the deep state of Pakistan, which is the military establishment. Now, if you look, you're right that there is a problem of terrorism that Pakistan is facing, which is, of course, its own creation. But IMF is not talking about cutting down on military expenditures, which is purely for military purpose. Here you have an army which has unlimited amount of profligacy that it does with the money from budget. That is what the IMF is concerned about. Look at the huge amount of difference in the real estates that are bought with exchequers money to keep the generals and the colonels and the brigadiers happy. Yes. That's one. Second is, of course, this is one of the very few countries in the world where there have been 13 times it has been bailed out by IMF. Where has the money gone? What kind of structural reform Pakistan has brought in? What have they done to create an enabling environment for foreign direct investment to come? What have they done to reduce expenditure, which is unviable in nature, and to increase their revenues? They've done nothing. So that's the question for IMF. The question is, where would this money go? Invariably, it has always gone up. They have made money for their geostrategic location. First, to create terrorists during the so-called war against Soviets. Then they made money by playing a victim card to fight war on terror. Now they are trying to make money because of the flood issue. Eventually, it is the 10-15% elites which have always siphoned off the money. This time, the IMF is trying to do some kind of strangulation on that very thing, but it is very difficult for Pakistani government to do. I think this was the last time they had an opportunity to reform themselves, because 32 years back we had a similar situation. From the verge of bankruptcy, India emerged as the 5th largest economy, so it's doable. But Pakistan's problem is that there is always a question on its intent. IMF does not trust the integrity of the government of Pakistan. That's the biggest problem. Even if they raise the price of petrol and other essential commodities, the purchasing power of people of Pakistan is heavily compromised today. They cannot buy, which means the revenue of the government of Pakistan will not go up. What it would end up is creating a parallel economy which is already existing. Money will flow, oil will flow in the black economy from Iran. So the reality is this. Yes, there is a problem of terrorism, but Pakistan government, Pakistan army has never fought terrorists. They themselves have outsourced the fighting of war to the jihadis. So they don't want to fight in any case. Even today, Pakistan army has a very limited role in terms of fighting the terrorists. They have been saying that we don't have funds. It has never been interested in fighting major wars. That's the reason they created all these non-state actors. So the reality is this. Pakistan as a country is owned by the deep state. If the deep state's money is cut down, then Shahbaz Sharif government will fall. I think Imran Khan is looking at it as some kind of a blessing because his popularity will go up because the so-called uncomfortable task Shahbaz Sharif is being
Yes, also the fact that there are elections that are around the corner and Pakistan does not even have the money to hold those general elections is what one of the reports had also claimed. So this bailout is important on multiple levels. Hamid Khan, senior journalist from Pakistan, also joins us on this broadcast. And Hamid Khan, how exactly is Pakistan hoping to turn around the entire situation? Because it's not about whether or not the economy is going to collapse or, whether that can happen. The question many are asking today, not just in Pakistan, but around the world as well, is can a complete collapse be halted?
Thank you very much, Poonam. To be honest, there are 2-3 things which needs to be understood. One, it is very, very highly unlikely there will be any complete collapse. There are many reasons for it. One of the biggest reasons is, I absolutely disagree with the lady who was saying that Pakistan will pay the debt for China if they get the 1.5 billion from IMF. No, that's not the fact. Rather, China is not asking for their debts at the moment. China understands the situation. On the other hand, Pakistan is in a critical situation. We do understand. But saying that, on the other hand, blaming only army or anyone is not fair. It is the incapacity and incapability of the government who could not manage the properly the economical situation and who could not handle the situation, and that's why there is a economical mess. There is no doubt about it. Price hike and everything. But I believe that all they need is a will to resolve the issues, is a will to resolve the economical matters, and then they need to have a proper planning. And I believe, and I have resources which are confirming that China will rather support rather than asking for their debts back. There is no way that China is asking at this moment. China do understand that Pakistan-China friendship is not only for financial. It is a relation of the two brotherly countries.
But that also serves the purpose of China, isn't it? Because they are known to debt trapping countries like Pakistan, like Sri Lanka. Many would suggest that that works in the favor of China as well.
Poonam, the situation between Pakistan and China is different than the Chinese, debt relations with other countries. Keep in mind, China has so many, projects and so many benefits from Pakistan as well. So it is a friendship of mutual benefits. It's not the friendship of one-sided interest.
Sure.
Keep that in mind.
Sure.
And one last thing I will say. That yes, there is a very big mess at the moment, economical, but I would say the moment country gains the political stability, it will automatically improve the economical situation as well, because once there is no political uncertainty in the country, it helps the economy, it helps the business, it helps the foreign investment to have to be able to trust. So as long as we get the political stability, the sooner the better.
But what are the odds of that, Hamid Khan? I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but what are the odds that political stability will actually happen in Pakistan in the near future? Because many would suggest in the country and outside as well that there are absolutely no funds to even hold a general election in the country.
No, that's not true that there is no fund. It is just a rumor. Yes, there are some texts which they are trying to delay the election, which will be very harmful. There should not be any delay in elections for any reason whatsoever. And yes, there is a popularity of Imran Khan, and the government is scared of popularity of Imran Khan. But I believe that let the people decide and let the people choose who they want to be run or lead. And if Imran Khan comes in power, or if the remaining government comes in power again, either way, the country will have better economical and political stability once the elections are conducted in Pakistan. And I think that is a very critical point. As long as the caretaker government is there, you will see a big change in the stability and in help for Pakistan from different countries as well.
Sure, the political stability might help the situation, but it definitely not is going to be the solution, Dr. Tarakarta, isn't it? Because it's not a secret that it's really the military establishment that calls the shots in Pakistan. The civil government that is in place, the civilian government that is in place there is merely a puppet.
Poonam, there is only one thing that
I think
why I
that
emphasized on political stability. Then the government can take a hard decision,
Sure.
whether it is
Sure, but would the
whether
military
it is
actually allow that hard decision to be taken? And I want Dr. Tarakarta to come in as well,
no,
because
I mean,
that decision is
let me
something
tell
that
you one
needs to
thing.
be taken as
No,
far as
about
military
military.
spending is concerned too, and that's what the IMF is also pointing out at Dr. Tarakarta, isn't it?
absolutely. In fact, it is really sad that I'm sure Hamid Khan himself will admit that the shots in all matters. I mean, you have army chiefs going out to get loans. The army chief went to Beijing, he went to various countries, he went to Saudi Arabia. So they are as much involved in the economy as the civilians seem to be, which is very unusual in a democracy where you have the army going out. So it's not so much a question of political stability per se, like you said correctly. Any government which comes in, and I'm surprised Imran Khan wants to come in at this point, is going to have to take some very nasty decisions. If there is no easy way out, political stability by itself is not going to bring fiscal stability, because there are very few loopholes left. I mean, you've got gas going to be increased, the electricity prices are going to be increased, the flour has increased, the vegetables have increased. Everything across the board, if it's going to increase, it leaves very, very. I mean, I'm already, you can see, the kind of things which you're showing on your screen. People protesting because there's no wheat, there's no gas. These are not things which can political. I mean, I'm even surprised that you're considering elections at this point. I mean, the urgency now is to sort this problem out as soon as possible. And one hopes that Pakistan will be able to do that.
Absolutely, because it's not just about political instability, Pathikrit Pain. The crisis is mammoth one at that. The forex reserves are at a 9-time low. At last count, I may be mistaken, but at last count, the Pakistani rupee was 250 rupees to the dollar. We've seen the GDP go slumping over the last few years, and that is something that is not going to change. The debt burden of every single individual in that country has gone up by manifold in the last 1 year or so.
First of all, the little bit of foreign exchange reserve that Pakistan has, that is the borrowed money. That is not even Pakistan's money. That's $3 to $4 billion they have. Number two, the free fall of the Pakistani currency will go even higher if the central bank takes away its, control on it. Third, let's understand the problem. I'm amazed that somebody from Pakistan, with due respect, was talking about political instability. The problem with Pakistan is its inability to accept the reality and keep on passing the blame on some of the other issue. I mean, this kind of a problem doesn't happen in one day. Sharif might be inept, but he has been power in for less than 1 year. The Naya Pakistan dream that Imran Khan wove and sold to the Pakistanis for 4 years. What did he do? What was the outcome? How is it that a country has been built out for more than 12 times by IMF and still it is in so much doldrum that its economy is worse than that of a Somalia? So the reality is that Pakistan has never invested in education. It has never invested in creating a viable economy. It doesn't have an infrastructure policy. Its debt has gone manifold. What China?
But somehow Pakistan has always found the money to fund terror, to shield terror organizations and globally designated terrorists on their soil, try and push terror into India. Keep that propaganda on. That is something that Pakistan has always managed to keep money for, and that is something that the world has also woken up to. That is something that Pakistan is being named and shamed for globally on multiple platforms as well. Now, the IMF team continues to be in the country there for another 10 days. Whether or not these conditions are ironed out, whether Pakistan agrees to these conditions, because many would suggest that there really is no option left for that country. We'll keep an eye out on that, but I thank all my panelists for joining us here on this broadcast, even as we keep a track of the crisis that plagues our neighbor Pakistan. With that, we're slipping into a quick break here on this edition, but lots lined up for you on the other side here on PlainSpeak. Don't go anywhere.
To pitch in